Hey guys, I'm BSC1 again. I just kind of wanted to talk about Nationals and what the metagame is going to be like and what I predict to be big and what decks I think are going to be good. Because I kind of started writing an article about it and then, kind of just wanted to talk about it. So basically my three picks for Tier 1 decks right now are Primal Groudon with Dragonite, Night March, and this Empoleon deck that I'm using. So I'm going to kind of talk about each one separately. Primal Groudon I think is very strong just because with the combination of Dragonite with the healing ability, you kind of just set up a Dragonite, and then as long as you are able to keep using, I think I might have, you set up a Groudon, and as long as you can keep using Dragonite and not getting one-shotted with the Focus Sash, your Groudon kind of won't really go down. It seems like you can just keep taking knockouts, especially if your opponent, or especially if you can take knockouts on only EXs. So the initial damage they do won't knock you out because either it's just not enough to knock you out, or you have a Focus Sash. So that's one hit you can take after you do damage to them, because you're always going to attack first because you just wall with Wobbuffet until you attack. So you take two prizes or so, or something like that. They hit you, then you can use Max Wind to heal, and then you hit them again, take two more prizes. They hit you again, use Max Wind, hit them again, and take the last two prizes. So the deck in general just seems really strong. And then if you're not taking a few prizes, they're probably not going to get close to one-shotting you, so you can use like Pokemon Center Lady or something like that if you run it. I think that's a good attack, just in case you can't use Max Wind again, because you usually in the deck you only are going to run like two, maybe three Dragonite, so it's going to be kind of hard to keep streaming them. But yeah, I just think that deck seems really strong. It just has good matchups kind of against everything, it seems like. Night March could be a little bit of a problem though, so that's the one reason why I might not want to run it. I'm actually not very worried about Flareon. I know a lot of people are kind of hyping that, but I think Flareon actually does not benefit from the banning of Trump Card at all. I think it's actually hurt more by it just because of the resource management involved. You can't Juniper every turn if you don't have Trump Card in the format. Flareon kind of needs to do that, and it's okay to Trump against Flareon. People don't realize that Trump was actually good for Flareon decks because, they need to get those double colors back. They need to get those Flareon or other evolution Pokemon back to keep working. Plus, they have all the the draw to get through the deck again really quickly. So I think Trump actually hurts Flareon, so I don't think that's going to be too big. Anyway, it's kind of a tangent. So yeah, I think Primal Groudon with Dragonite's going to be very strong. I think without Dragonite, it's not as good. It just has too much trouble with the Rayquaza decks. Just everything, it seems like, just in general, it seems like it's too hard to beat stuff and keep your Groudon alive. So I don't think the regular version is super strong. So then there's Empoleon, which is the deck I'm using. This deck just seems really strong right now. It doesn't really have an auto loss or even really a bad matchup. I've been testing against what seems like, well, I guess it does have one auto loss, and that's to Mega Manectric, but I don't think Mega Manectric is going to be very played. It doesn't seem like a very good play to me. But anyway, yeah, even the matchups that you might think would be pretty bad, like Trevenant and Seismitoad, are actually ending up to be not that bad. I think against both Seismitoad decks and Trevenant decks, my matchup is like 55-45 in my opinion, but most of the time it's just a coin flip. It's just like whoever goes first, especially against Trevenant, it's like whoever goes first ends up winning, and whoever doesn't ends up losing. But sometimes Empoleon can come back just because I run 3 Prinplup, so even with the item lock, I can still, kind of get around the item lock and be able to evolve. So yeah, I think Empoleon's really strong. Raichu was another matchup that I was afraid of, but then I realized all you really have to do is use Miltanks, and it's not weak to electric. And then, when you run out of Miltanks, you can just exchange with Empoleon because you've been setting him up the whole time. And you might think that, Raichu is going to have an easier time in that exchange because, it's just a stage 1 and Empoleon is a stage 2. But the thing is, Empoleon provides so much draw support that once you get one going, you can get another one going, another one, and it's really easy to keep them going like that. The other thing is, with Sinister Hand, you can do 80 with Miltank, move it somewhere else, do 80 again, and then use Sinister Hand to do put 110 on a Shaman, and then use the rest of the damage to like knock out like a Pikachu or something like that. Or I guess that's not a, well, you need 10 more damage, but either way, Sinister Hand makes it so that I think you can win the prize trade more easily. But they can do that too, just Lysander up your Shamans every turn and knock those out, so that can be tough as well. But I think I'm going to be favoring that matchup slightly. I haven't tested it a lot though, so I'll still have to wait and see. And then Night March is kind of an obvious pick for a tier 1 deck just because Trump is gone. It seems like nothing really counters it that hard right now. Um, the decks that used to beat it every time don't even really have that good of a matchup against it anymore, like Seismitoad. I don't even know how people are going to run Seismitoad anymore. I guess with Crobat maybe, or with Garbodor. Garbodor isn't very good though, just because like it doesn't do anything. Like nothing really is using abilities right now. Nothing popular is really using abilities right now, and anything that is can kind of easily work without it. So I don't think Garbodor is going to be really that great. Which just leaves Crobat, and Crobat's really clunky. You need to run like two Sacred Ash if you're going to make Toad Bats work, in my opinion. Um, just because like you just get these hands where you have to discard bats all the time. I was trying it, and it was super clunky. It wasn't working for me at all, and I wasn't even beating Night March all the time. It was like a 60-40 matchup maybe. So yeah, Night March just seems really strong. And oh yeah, against Trevenant too. Trevenant can be a pain because if they go first and they get the turn one Wally Trevenant, you kind of just lose. But if you go first, it seems like you can just discard so much stuff and burn through your deck quickly enough to make it so that you can still win just by Night Marching every turn because you just knock out Trevenant after Trevenant after Trevenant. So I think that is Trevenant's probably still favored a little bit just because they have the hammers too. It's probably like 60-40. But I still think it's really solid. And Trevenant's not very strong anymore anyway with Trump gone, in my opinion. Unless you're running it differently. But the way that people were running before was just with Shaman and lasers and hammers. And I don't think that works as well anymore, in my opinion. So yeah, and then as far as what I think will be popular, so those are the three decks that I think will be the best. I don't think they're going to be the most popular though, because I doubt anyone is really thinking about Empoleon besides me. But the decks that I think will be popular are number one, going to be Night March. That's kind of obvious. Everyone's kind of hyping that. Seems really strong. Number two, I think is going to be Groudon, just because it did well before, and that Primal Groudon with Dragonite deck that Dylan Ryan was using did really well. I think people are figuring out about that. It's really strong. And then honestly, after that, it's kind of like up in the air. I feel like people are just gonna run whatever they want. It's hard to say really. It's hard to predict what's gonna happen. I think Toad is still gonna be played, even though I don't think it's that good anymore. Just because it was played so much before. Trevenant will still see play. Just because it saw so much play before, and people don't really want to stop playing it. Seems like I don't think Mega Man Etric will be very big, just because Groudon is a really strong play, and so is Night March. In my opinion, they both beat Mega Man Etric, so that doesn't seem very strong. Virizion Genesect might see a slight resurgence, but the problem is Night March kind of destroys it too. So yeah, the reason why I was thinking someone might want to play Virizion Genesect is just because it destroys Toad and Trevenant and Groudon, so that's really nice. But it has that huge weakness to Night March, which is going to be really popular, so that's probably not very good either. Colorless Rayquaza and Dragon Rayquaza are both interesting. The problem with Colorless Rayquaza is still just the item lock. If you can find a way to kind of get around that, run more supporters and less items, which I think you probably will because you don't want to deck out and there's no Trump, so you kind of need to slow the deck down. That might be better. It honestly is a fairly strong choice. I think it still kind of loses to Night March though, just because they one-shot you, you one-shot them, except they win the prize trade. Plus Joltik hits Rayquaza for weakness, so that's kind of bad. Night March just seems to be dominating kind of everything. And then for Dragon Rayquaza, I think that's a fairly strong choice. If they go against Toad Garb, that's a pretty bad matchup, so that'll beat them probably, but Toad in general is a fairly good matchup for Dragon Rayquaza. I don't know if it beats Night March. I don't know how that works. But if it does, Dragon Rayquaza may be a very solid choice. That's kind of how it works out, it seems like. If you can find a deck that beats Night March, just kind of tech other cards to beat whatever you think will be popular, because Night March is going to be the biggest deck. I'm sure of it. I don't know why anything else would. It's extremely powerful. Everyone knows it's going to be good. It's just a super strong pick. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all the top tier decks. Oh, Donphan actually is being hyped by some people. I think that's a fairly solid choice, but I think that Dragon Rayquaza will still stay fairly popular just because it's still strong. Nothing really popped up that's gonna beat it really hard. Besides Night March kind of can, but I think people are probably gonna find a way to beat Night March. I saw, I think it was Jose Marrero running Empoleon in his Rayquaza colorless list, and that seems like a really good tech to me, because if you're running Water Energy in there, you can attack with Empoleon, which will be helpful against Night March. But yeah, I still think people are going to run colorless Rayquaza, so that hurts Donphan a lot, because it resists fighting. Um, and I don't know, just I've heard that Dragon or colorless Rayquaza beats Donphan pretty badly, so I don't think that's going to be that's going to be kind of a problem. Plus, Trevenant resists fighting, and it's a non-EX with 110 HP, so that's also really hard for Donphan. But I've just heard some people hyping it, and they think it's going to be good, so maybe that'll pop up more. But aside from that, I don't really know what else would be played. I think that pretty much covers everything. So yeah, this Nationals is going to be really weird. It's going to be like Night March and a bunch of crazy weird decks that people are just coming up with, because nobody knows how the meta is going to be. There's been no big tournament. There's no regionals or states with Trump banned, so nobody really knows for sure what's going to be super strong and good. So this is kind of all up in the air. Basically, my advice is just pick a deck that beats Night March and make it consistent. That's kind of it. Yeah. So thanks for watching. Like the video if you like the video, comment if you want to tell me something, and subscribe for more.